Hello, I'm Tiffany, and I am a certified family nurse practitioner and telehealthpreneur. Today, I want to talk about 5 things you should consider when deciding on an office space. Okay? Okay, number 1, budget. So an office space, depending on where you are, where you're physically located, which state, which city, and also what type of office buildings are available will determine your budget. But ideally, an office space can run between $200 and $700 for a one person space, one office that is big enough for one person. So if that is something that is in your budget, then you can definitely consider it. If you decide to have a home office, you also should consider budget, because if you need to remodel the area, so if you need to turn a closet into an office, or block off part of the living room and make it like a little cubby area, anything like that, you should also consider the cost, including the space, the desk, things like that. Number 2 is privacy. So if you decide to go with a shared office space or an office space that's outside of your home, you do need to consider the access that other people around you have to your space. So there are some shared spaces that it's literally a big room and there's cubbies. And obviously in that type of environment, people can easily see your screen unless you position yourself where the wall is here, as opposed to more people with offices. So that's something to consider. If you do a shared office, can you lock the door to be sure that when you're in a live session, no one can just barge in? And if you decide to do a home office and you have a family or you live with other people, then you want to be sure that that area is so secluded that your kid can't just mosey into the background, or a family member or a friend doesn't realize that you're live and interacting with the patient and they peek their head in, or they walk behind you naked, anything like that you don't want to risk. So keep in mind, whenever you are deciding which part of your house you want your office to be in, if you don't have a designated room for that, you want to be sure that you position it in a way that no one can walk behind you. Because there's plenty of times where I have my headphones in and a family member can walk on the other side of the computer where they only see the Apple on the computer, and they're like trying to give me hand signals like, are you live right now? So I can say yes or no, as opposed to them seeing the actual patient, So it's not that you have to be extremely secluded, but you do need to ensure that whoever's around you will not hear the patient talking, will not hear the patient give any patient identifiers. You yourself do not verbalize any patient identifiers, because obviously everyone in the room is going to hear that. And they also do not need to see your screen, ever. One more thing about privacy. Whenever I said that they don't need to ever hear the patient or see your screen, it reminded me of something that I have learned the hard way. Luckily, I was always by myself when it happened, but I just imagined how detrimental it would have been if I was not by myself. So if you like to use Bluetooth devices, Bluetooth headphones, they're great because obviously you can walk around and you're easily notified if a patient pops up on your screen or anything like that. It's just much easier, and most of the time the quality is better. I get all of that. But you need to ensure and practice over and over and over again with the same device. The Bluetooth headset and the same computer over and over without a patient on there, to make sure that there's no bugs that need to be fixed. Because if that Bluetooth device disconnects in the middle of the conversation and now that patient is on audio on your device, you are at risk for breaking HIPAA. So I love how Bluetooth devices sound, and I love most of them have the soundproofing on them. I love that, but I personally am not willing to risk the Bluetooth connection disconnecting in the middle of my visit, because it's probably just the kind that I have. I'm not saying that there's some that won't do that. I did not invest a lot of money into the the Bluetooth device that I'm talking about. So I don't want to sit here and say like it's impossible. I just want you to do your due diligence and know that that is something that can happen. And so I want you to be sure that you're aware of that so that you can avoid it at all costs. Okay. Number 3 is internet speed. Okay, so when it comes to telehealth, obviously we are going to depend 100% on the internet, and technology is great until it's not. So you need to be prepared and always check your internet speed before you start initiating visits. So if you're at home, you want to inquire about how fast your internet speed is, and you need to talk to your provider to determine like if I'm in the middle of a visit and someone else in the house is watching Netflix and someone else is gaming is the one that really takes the most. I am not a technology whiz at all, but from what I understand, gaming is what takes the most. So if you have someone in your house that's gaming, you want to consider that as well. So you want to ask those questions, and you definitely want to ask those questions when you are thinking about renting an office space. First, you want to ask if it's possible for you to connect your own router in your office, because ideally they do have like a general Wi-Fi, but you don't want your livelihood to depend on a building-wide Wi-Fi. So some offices allow you to start your own internet connection in your office. You just call AT&T or whoever, Xfinity, whoever's in your area, you call them, they come and set it up in your actual unit, so then you have a dedicated Wi-Fi system. Same thing applies though. You do need to talk to them about the speed, tell them what you're going to do, tell them about how many hours a day you will be on the internet. All of that does matter. There's a website called testmyspeed.com. Free. You can pull it up on your phone, your iPad, your computer, and you press go and it will test your internet speed. And ideally, literally what I'm about to say is like the minimum. So with the different platforms that I've worked with over the years, the bare minimum that you need for download speed is 100 megabytes per second. Like when I say bare minimum, I mean like that's not fast, but that's enough to get you a video visit. But ideally you want like 300, 350, 500 and above. You want kind of that area. But I give you that range because if you're traveling, which your girl does. So when I'm traveling and I have to do that test, I'm like, testing it out to see. And if it's less than 100, then I need to go somewhere else. I ideally use my own hotspot because I prefer it's not hackable, and so when I travel I usually use my own hotspot. But I also had to discuss that with my carrier to make sure to determine how fast my hotspot is, and then after a certain amount of kilobytes, megabytes, something like that, then it starts to decrease, and so I keep an eye on that. I have 2 hotspots for that reason. So that's definitely something that you want to do your research on, because the last thing you want to do is have your day full of patients with no internet connection. Imagine that. And I hope all you can do is imagine it, because I pray that you never have to experience that. All right, number 4 is comfort and accessibility. So whichever you decide, literally, if you decide to rent an office space or you decide to make an area in your home your designated office space, you want to make sure you can be comfortable there. So as a nurse practitioner, ideally you didn't spend a lot of time sitting in the office, especially if you were seeing like 20, 30 patients a day. You would be in the office, go see a patient, be in the office, go see a patient. Well, in this instance, you literally can be sitting for long periods of time depending on your telehealth schedule. So you want to be comfortable. So you need to consider the temperature. If you decide to do a shared office space, you need to determine if it's if your unit has a controlled temperature thermostat, or if the whole building is controlled by one thermostat, or your hallway, whatever it is. If you don't have control of it, you need to think about that. Same with your house. If you are going to be inside of your house, you need to, most people increase the thermostat when they leave home when everyone's at work. So you would need to consider that increase in cost if you will be sitting inside of your home and you want the air to be comfortable. You also want to consider, if you're doing a shared office space, if they have a break room, or if you're allowed to bring in your own, say like coffee machine, Air fryer. I love me a good air fryer. I am extremely spoiled now to where I do not microwave my lunch. So I need a place that I can plug in my air fryer, or else I won't eat unless it's something cold like a salad or a sandwich. But other than that, if it's something that I need to warm up, I need my air fryer. So you need to consider these things if you're going to decide to rent an office space. You also want to consider accessibility, because will you be able to have a badge to access the building 24 hours a day, every day? Or do you only have access when the front office is open? When it comes to mail and packages, do they accept your packages at the front desk, or do you have to be actually in your office in order for them to accept your packages or your mail? Those are questions that you really need to consider before you sign a lease for any office space, okay? All right, that brings us to number 5. I don't really have a fancy way to label this one, but basically it's about your mindset, okay? So you need to be real with yourself, and you need to determine if you can separate home from work. So if you need to get dressed, drive to another location for you to turn off home brain and turn on work brain, then you probably need to highly consider going into a shared office space. However, if you know that you are disciplined enough to separate home from work under the same roof, then you can consider an office space inside of your home. So for me, I'm half and half. That's why I have a hybrid practice, because there are some days that I am like so laser focused at home in my pajamas on my couch, and I get everything done that needs to be done. Then there's other days that I wake up and I'm very low. I have low motivation, and I know I will not be disciplined if I stay inside of my home. So then I go to my office and I'm forced to work. So I know I took a moment and was real with myself about what my expectations would be of myself, and I decided the hybrid model was better. So I have an office space at home, and then I also have this office space that I can come to. So you do need to really think about that before you decide, oh, I'm just gonna work from home, you know? Is your family at home as well? Is your spouse at home? Will it be hard to focus knowing that they're in the other room and you all can be having quality time together? All of that. Will you try to clean up your house while you're working, and that means that you're taking away from your actual work time? Like, all of that needs to really be considered. All right, that completes my list of 5 things that you should consider when determining your office space as a telehealthpreneur. And I want you all to let me know what else you want to know about picking out an office space. If you found this video helpful, I want you to like, share, and subscribe. Put your notifications on, because my goal is to give you as much value as possible so that you can pursue your telehealthpreneur lifestyle and career confidently and learning from the mistakes that I already made. Bye.